Let's see, it appears that the parties are here and that Ms. Ward is here. We are live streaming the hearing pursuant to the open courts provision of the Texas Constitution. If at any point y'all have sensitive matters to discuss about the child and we need to go off the live stream, we can do that. But you'll just have to let us know. So I did read the pleadings yesterday, and then I did find the Rule 11 agreement this morning when I logged on. And I understand that you all have agreed to pass the setting for the final trial that was set for today, but to use the setting instead for the purposes of further temporary orders.
Yes, Your Honor.
I will tell you, I understand, Miss Casey Miller, that you had asked for more time to either hire an attorney or to prepare yourself for a final trial. And I note that you have not filed any of the pretrial forms that are required before a family court hearing. And let me just say, I did see pretrials filed for the plaintiffs back on December 1st. So if you don't hire a lawyer, you do need to go onto the Civil and Family Courts website for Travis County and find the link for the family forms, and be sure and fill out the pretrial forms. Actually, the 12-1 is not the pretrial forms, it's just pretrial disclosures.
Yes, Your Honor. I failed to do the PD. I apologize about that.
I was never informed about that because I did additionally put in my own motion for continuance before the other party did. So I'm not sure 100% what was completely sent to you, because I've only been I can't communicate with my brother and my sister-in-law. I only communicate with their lawyer. So I have not been completely aware of what I should or should not have prepared already.
Right. And that's what I'm telling you is, if you go to the website for the Travis County Family and Civil Courts,
yes,
you see that there's some pretrial forms and there's some local rules. And the local rules on the family cases should be around chapter 25. It may be 24, 25, 26. You should look at those and you'll see that there's two things that you're supposed to file 2 weeks before a hearing. One of them is called a proposed disposition of issues, stating what you're asking the court to do. And the other is a budget, indicating what your finances are. So you'll need to follow the rules and get those filed at least 2 weeks before the final hearing.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right. So let me just start by asking you all to tell me what it is you're asking me to do today. And I'll start with you, Ms. Ward, and then I'll come back to you, Ms. Miller.
Yes, Your Honor. Our requests for further temporary orders are pretty brief. Not a whole lot has changed in this case. It did seem like trial was premature because of some instability on the part of both of the parents. Both of the parents were gainfully employed at the beginning of this case, and both are either underemployed or unemployed at this time. During the initial temporary orders, we had an agreement that Ms. Miller would cover the child on health insurance. When she lost her job, she failed to notify anyone that health insurance had ceased. As a result, there were some bills that were not covered by insurance that we're asking the court to confirm. We also, after that, Mr. Kadar had agreed to insure the child. He too failed to notify anyone when health insurance was then ceased, which happened recently. And so now really what we're needing is for a change in health insurance, because the Millers are in a position where they can add the child. I believe maybe have already added the child to their health insurance. So we need the order to state that they're going to be insuring the child and that the parents will be reimbursing them for that cost. And we're asking for some confirmation of who owes what for the back payments of various bills that were not covered by health insurance, either because there was a high copay or because of not having insurance at all. Additionally, Your Honor, I believe that Ms. Miller is going to be asking for some additional time or changes in her possession and access. Our position on that is that all other orders should remain as is. She has not demonstrated any changes, Your Honor. This case started basically because CPS gave my clients an ultimatum that they needed to file. And so they did. This wasn't something that my clients were just begging to take this child. This was something where CPS basically told them they had to. And Ms. Miller has not demonstrated any sobriety. She also has not observed the visitation that she's been granted. She has some times available for supervised. She also has some ability to schedule some supervised through a third-party facilitator, which she hasn't done. Or she's done maybe once or twice. So we're just asking for the possession and access to remain the same. At this time, we're requesting for child support to remain the same. Ms. Miller is working, I believe, at a grocery store. She is a certified teacher. She's voluntarily underemployed at this point. If Mr. Kadar is asking for a change in child support, I would also argue that he's voluntarily unemployed. He lost his job and has not even applied for unemployment insurance. He made over $200,000 last year. Am I talking too fast, Ms. Williamson? I am so sorry. You're shaking your head. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'll just stop you and tell y'all that Miss Williamson is making a record. If you see her shaking her head, it's not because she disagrees with what you're saying. It is instead because you're speaking too quickly for her to make an accurate record. And she's certified to 250 words a minute, which is a lot. But when you get going, you can go faster. So please do keep an eye on her and try to keep your speed at a normal pace. Thanks.
I apologize about that. I'm usually way more cautious about it too. So those are the requests that I'm anticipating from the parents. I'm not sure if there might be something additional. So I just figured I would address that head on with my statement as well. So those are generally our position. We want mostly everything to stay the same, but just the health insurance issue.
All right. So Ms. Casey Miller, why don't you let me know what it is you're asking for today?
Yes, ma'am. So for today, I was also working with the Texas Law Library to file a motion for continuance before they suggested a motion of continuance after finding out that Andrew had lost his job. I was
hang on. So I'm guessing that's your dog who's whining, and Miss Williamson is having a hard time hearing you. So maybe you can move. Thanks. The dog to another room. It's often my dog who's doing that, so I recognize the sound. All right.
I apologize. They're going to bark outside, but hopefully that won't be that. So yes, ma'am. So I wanted to put in for a motion for continuance as well. I never got my day in court. I never got to show the court. As far as what Miss Ward is saying, I have not made any progress. I have completed everything from our family safety plan that I was supposed to complete. I have those certificates. I have completed my relapse intensive IOP. I have completed my aftercare. I have completed my 16-week any baby can parenting class. I have continued to go to AA meetings. I have a sponsor. I am working my steps. I have all of this documented. I have also documentation from people, my LCDC, from other people documenting my progress along the way. And that has been completely discredited. I have been acknowledged by Janin that I've done nothing but the parenting class, which is not true. So I would like for those things to be taken into consideration because I worked really hard to get to those places. What I'm asking for today is I would like to see my child more. As of right now, the last time I saw my child was 12/23. I put in a request on January 2nd, which I am supposed to see her minimally for one time a week, which does not designate a certain amount of hours, but I minimally is supposed to see her once a week. And I put in a request January 2nd, and based off of what I put in for my request January 2nd, according to what Janin and Sam's availability is, I am not able to see my child until the 11th of this month, which would mean that would be 21 days from the last day that I saw my child. That does not seem like that is once a week. I also requested for daily FaceTimes, and I have this documented. It's also in Exhibit E which is in their exhibits. I asked for more FaceTimes, of which we granted, only to be told that the FaceTimes she was starting to want to decline because they were too much for her. So I was told to not FaceTime as much. So I'm told to do one thing, and then I'm told to do the other. I'm told to do this, and then to do that. I'm told that this is going to work, and then I'm told that I'm not making it work. All I know is I've been focused on my sobriety. I am still focused on my sobriety. All I know is my case was done. It was ruled out July 3rd. That is almost 6 months ago. Because I asked for my child to be moved placements for the PCSP so that I could see her more than once a month. Because of that, Janin took out a temporary restraining order, which blocked me from putting my kid into another person's home, which that person was going to allow me to see my child more than once a week or once a month. That was thrown on me when I was at work. I had to go to the emergency court hearing via Zoom or computer that day with about 30 minutes notice. I had no notice before. I had to call my principal. I had to tell my principal. I went outside and I sat outside of my car, and nothing happened because the docket was booked for a second. And so Janin noted that in the GPS tracker that she illegally had in my car with my mom, that I was sitting across the street from a place in my neighborhood instead of across the street from my school during this meeting, which I was at the end, but that was because we were on a waiting for the judge, waiting for him to come to us and talk. And I waited for about 45 minutes and nothing happened. So I decided to drive to my house. Upon driving to my house, Ms. Ward stepped in and said that the judge was ready. So I came in on my computer, but I did not have access to be able to be visually. I was only audio, but that is documented in Janin's records that I was not at school and lying about where I was. And the only way she knew that was because there was an illegal tracker on my car, which I still have, and talked to Nicole Arnold today, filing our police report. And she has officially filed that report to be a Class A misdemeanor against Miss Janin Miller.
So in terms of, this is just your opening statement to tell me what it is you're asking me to do.
Okay.
And so just to be clear, you're going to need to save that other information that you want to give me for your turn to testify, and I will swear you in at that time. Now it's just your overview of what you're asking me to do today.
Thank you for explaining that. I've been studying law for the past 3 months, and I'm trying to figure out this on my own because I am not able to afford a legal attorney. So I apologize that I used the incorrect time to state those certain things. But
no problem. But just you're going to need to restate anything in terms of your testimony.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The other thing that I wanted to petition against was the fact that they are asking both Andrew and I for child support, which now that I am employed, my wages have been garnished. So my wages are going to them. I can't say the same about Andrew, but I can say that they're putting her at a $1,500 a month preschool, of which she can attend for free. And have told my mom, and my mom feels very backed into this, that if I don't pay for my child $500 extra a month to go to Circle C Child Development Center, that they are going to bring it up and I'm going to be in trouble with the lawyer or with the judge. My mom should not be in any way financially responsible for my child. If they want her to attend Circle C Child Development Center, they should be paying for that. She is able to go to Meridian, which is their preschool in their neighborhood that their children went to, that the hours are completely the same availability. So that's another thing is I need to request that they stop asking my mom for money in this situation, because it's going to end up being on me, and all the faults and all of everything with money can fall on me, and I'll be responsible for that. But my mom doesn't need to be involved in this.
All right. Thank you. I understand. Is it Kadar or Kadar?
It's Kadar.
Mr. Kadar, do you have any things that you're asking for today?
I do. I would like the child support to be reduced just until I am gainfully employed. Um, as the attorney, as Carrie Ward said, that I am, underemployed by choice. That's completely disingenuous. I lost my job less than 2 months ago, and have been living off severance since then. I was gainfully employed for 6 straight years prior to that. Um, and so if it's not reduced, then that'll just cut down the time I'll have to look for work and the proper kind of work. If not, I can go flip burgers at Burger King, but I don't think that would be in the best interest of myself or for Emerson in the long run if I'm making far less than what I'm capable of. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right, so y'all had originally announced for 2 hours. We are going to go ahead and limit you to an additional hour and a half. So that means that each side will get up to 45 minutes, and Ms. Fatima will keep track of the time. All right, so Ms. Ward, you may call your first witness, and I will ask each of you to keep your microphone on mute if you're not testifying, because it does improve the sound quality.
I'll call Janet Miller. And how are you related to Emerson?
I am her aunt.
How did you come to have Emerson in your possession?
This time or the first time?
Starting with the first time. When was that?
Okay, in October of 2021, we received a call from Casey's employer at the school district stating that they didn't know where Casey was. She had left in the middle of the day to go get lunch for Custodian Appreciation Day, and she did not return. After several attempts through myself, my husband, Sam, my mother-in-law, and Andrew, we were able to find her about 6 hours later on the side of the road headed out of town. She was impaired, didn't know where she was or how she got there. She had left her child at daycare, and family members and I coordinated to have somebody go and pick her up and care for her. Casey spent the night at my mother-in-law's house, which is in our backyard. And then I took her to the hospital the next morning. We ended up taking her to Austin Oaks Hospital. She was there for, I think, a week. I ended up taking custody of the child the very next day, or possession of the child. I had her for 3 weeks. A CPS report was filed by the school district. Had called and filed a report. I had her for 3 weeks during that time, and returned the child to her when that case determined that she should be returned to her child. That case ended up being closed in August of 2022. And then on September 7th, of 2022, I received a call from Casey's neighbor, Ellie Batista, stating that Casey had been caught drinking in the classroom at her new employment at Casey's Elementary School with AISD. Ellie went to go pick up Emerson from school because Casey was not authorized to do so because she was impaired at 9 o'clock in the 9 or 9:30 in the morning.
Okay, Shannon, you got to slow down.
Yep. Sorry.
So the first time you said you had her for 3 weeks, that was in 2021. And that was because of a CPS safety plan, is that right?
They did an investigations. I don't know that we ever went to a safety plan at that point. I would have to go back and look at the records. They're in the records that were submitted as an exhibit.
Okay. And how old was Emerson at that time in October of 2021?
She was 2.5.
Okay. So then in September of 2022 was the second time you got Emerson. Is that right?
Correct.
And that was prompted by a phone call from a neighbor. Is that right? Okay. Did CPS ask?
Hold on.
I wasn't able to hear your answer, so if you could repeat. The question was, and that was prompted by a phone call from a neighbor. Is that right? And your audio didn't come clear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that was correct.
And I apologize. I didn't realize you couldn't hear. I don't know if I heard it or not. So at that time, did CPS ask you to take Emerson, or was that just an agreement, a casual agreement?
Casey voluntarily allowed me to have possession of her child.
Okay. How old was Emerson at that time?
She was 3.5.
Did you observe Casey to be under the influence at that time?
I did not see her.
Did she admit to having drank alcohol or used something in the classroom?
She did to Ellie. Ellie is the one who coordinated the delivery of the child to me.
Okay. Okay. And then that incident prompted another CPS investigation. Is that what you said?
Correct. So when the first time that I had possession of the child, I asked CPS at what point should I notify them again, and they said when I was aware of any relapse with Casey. And so I personally contacted CPS and filed a report on September 7th. They opened an investigation, and then they deemed that Emerson should stay in my possession, and we went to a family-based safety plan.
How long was that family?
Hold on. Are you having trouble with my audio?
I didn't understand what type of family plan. You said a family something plan. I didn't understand the acronym.
It's a family-based safety services, I think.
Okay. How long did you have her with CPS overseeing the situation after September 7th of 2022?
So CPS closed their case officially at the end of June 2023.
Okay.
I had her in my possession that entire time.
Was that only after you received temporary orders naming you and your husband as joint managing conservators?
That's correct.
What, if any, progress have you seen with Casey since first beginning all of this?
So a lot of the updates that I was given was through CPS, and there were periods of time where she would show some progress, but then would backtrack and regress. There was repeated failed drug tests or missed drug tests throughout the entire time that CPS was involved. I'm sure you can, the CPS records are long, but I was told that she had failed 15 out of 21 drug tests that she actually showed up for. In the last 3 months that CPS was involved, she ignored every single request for a drug test, which was twice a week for the last 3 months. I know that she stated that I said that she hadn't successfully completed anything. All of that information has come from CPS. I don't have firsthand knowledge of any completion or records that she may have had, but I reviewed the CPS records.
Okay. Your Honor, I would move to admit petitioner's exhibit number 3, which is the CPS records with business records affidavit.
Any objection? All right.
Yes,
Ms. Miller?
I object.
What is your objection, Ms. Miller?
In those CPS records, the ones exhibit 3 that she is talking about, there is plenty, and I have documented the pages, plenty of times of which CPS told me of what I was required to do, which was my relapse.
So at this point, you're not to argue about what's in the reports. You're just supposed to tell me if you have an objection to them being admitted into evidence and what the nature of the objection is.
Yes, I do. I do have an objection to that. My objection would be a lot of the affidavit that was stated with Janin to get the temporary restraining order is not accurate. 100%, I have evidence to prove it.
All right. So that goes to the substance of what's in the document. That's not a legal objection to the admission of the document. So you will get to cross-examine her about what's in the document.
Okay.
So the objection is overruled and petitioner's exhibit 3 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Miller, have you had the opportunity to review the CPS records, which is exhibit number 3?
Yes.
Sorry, Janin Miller is testifying at the moment.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do the records support the things that you previously believed and the things that you just stated that you had been told?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. When
can I finish your last question about
Sure.
progress? I will tell you that as of today, I believe that we were back at square one based on what I have witnessed and what I have seen, and the lack of confirmation of sobriety from Ms. Miller.
Okay. what you started earlier to talk about some of the services that during Ms. Casey Miller's opening statement, she indicated that she had completed based on your knowledge of the CPS records that have already been admitted. What services did she complete during that CPS case?
So I haven't seen any exhibits that she may have submitted, but she had indicated that she wanted to submit a certification of completion progress reports from ADAP's relapse intensive. Oh, I'm sorry. I will slow down. Sorry, Michelle.
One other thing that's very helpful, especially in the Zoom environment, is you can't have a conversation with each other where you speak at the same time as someone else is speaking with the, okay, I hear you, or what have you. It cuts out the audio for both people. So if you could awkwardly wait for each person to finish what they're saying, that will allow me to make an accurate and complete record for everyone here today. Thank you. I'm sorry, I feel high maintenance already, but I just need to make the record for everyone. So.
Are you ready? Okay. So one of the first thing that she had indicated that she wanted to submit was the certification of completion progress reports, aftercare reports from ADAP's relapse intensive IOP. ADAP is I believe the alcohol, drug, and abuse program or something. I don't know the exact. I would ask that those are not relevant because Casey is currently living with her ADAP counselor, and it's inappropriate and unethical. And so I would ask that those be dismissed.
Okay, understand we're not talking about exhibits right now.
Okay.
And she has not offered any.
Okay. She hasn't.
She has not offered any exhibits into evidence that I will make proper objections when that time comes.
The next one is Any Baby Can parenting class. If you refer to page 123 of the CPS records, CPS has indicated that Ms. Miller completed the nurturing parents course. However, CPS indicated that she has not been utilizing the skills taught in the course.
Okay.
And then based on the CPS records, any AA meetings that they requested that she take, she failed to attend the meetings as recommended.
Okay.
And on page 141 of 144 of the CPS records, CPS indicated that Casey had never completed an assessment with a psychiatrist for a complete, accurate evaluation of her need for Xanax and alcohol.
Do you have any reason to believe that she is still currently abusing substances such as Xanax or alcohol?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know when my camera turned off. Sorry about that. I must have bumped it. What reason do you have to believe that?
As I mentioned earlier, my mother-in-law lives in a house that was built for her in our backyard. My mother-in-law has had some health issues over the last year, so we put a video camera in her house so that we could monitor her and make sure that she didn't have any additional falls or anything like that. Miss Casey Miller is well aware of the cameras. And on October 27th of 2023 and 11/2 of 2023, I have video evidence of her illegally accessing her mother's medications that I administer to her on a daily basis.
Okay. Let me ask questions. You get going, and I know you're going too fast. So let me ask.
So Ms. Miller, just to be clear, Casey Miller's mother is your mother-in-law?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
My husband is Casey's half sister or half brother.
Thank you.
So you're saying that on October the 27th and November the 2nd of 2023, you witnessed on the video that you used to make sure your mother-in-law is safe, you witnessed Ms. Casey Miller accessing your mother-in-law's medication, right?
That's correct.
Okay. What medication does your mother-in-law take?
She takes a lot, but the primary ones are Xanax and oxycodone. She has a bunch of others.
Okay. Are Xanax and oxycodone the types of substances that prompted these concerns at the beginning of all of this?
They are part of it. Some of them, yes.
And just to be clear, the video camera in your mother-in-law's residence, your mother-in-law consented and agreed to have installed. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's for her own safety.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I guess while we're on the same subject, Ms. Casey Miller discussed in her opening some things about tracking devices? Is there a tracking device on her vehicle?
So the vehicle is actually my mother-in-law's. Casey is not the owner of the vehicle. My mother-in-law had the vehicle initially. My husband notified her that we would be, my mother-in-law, that we would be placing a tracker in her vehicle due to some concerns we had about my mother-in-law. And so the vehicle that Casey has been driving and currently drives is technically not hers, it's my mother-in-law's. And my mother-in-law was aware of the AirTag that was placed in her vehicle.
And that again was for your mother-in-law's safety when it was her vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And okay, so back to Ms. Casey Miller accessing your mother-in-law's medication. Did you address that with Ms. Casey Miller?
I did not. I addressed it with my mother-in-law, and the response that she received from Casey was that Casey punked me.
Punked you?
Punked me.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
That's a great question.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what she meant by that.
Okay.
I can only assume that it was a joke that she was playing on me.
Okay. Do you have any other current concerns about Ms. Casey Miller's sobriety?
I will also add that when this was addressed with my mother-in-law did state that Casey has been providing her with extra Xanax pills for the last 6 months above my mother-in-law's prescribed dosage, which is something that they had done previously. And I had asked that it stop, and it began to reoccur, as far as I know, around June of 2023.
Okay. What kind of visitation is currently being offered for Ms. Casey Miller?
Casey has the right to request visitations, and we certainly make it work to the best of our ability. We understand that I also have 3 biological children with Sam. We both work full time. And so, you know, I know that Casey had requested basically carte blanche and no limitations on time that she should be allowed to see Emmy, and that's just not something that we are able to provide, just because we have, you know, Emerson still takes, I'm sorry, Michelle. Emerson still takes naps, and I work around her nap schedule, and my family also has other plans during the week that we have to work around as well. The court orders state that all visits have to be requested at least 1 week in advance. And Casey very rarely, maybe once she has honored that request. So the request that she had mentioned on January 2nd was we are not able to accommodate a visit until at least a week in advance of that. So, okay. And a lot of the times that she requested visits for this past week were during work hours, which we are not able to accommodate.
Who normally supervises her visits?
So at this point, it's a monitored facility called Another Chance for Change, I think, or her name is Auburn Gallagher, is the primary contact. I will tell you that Casey has had about 6 or 7 visits with them. She has been late to 2 of them. One was more than 15 minutes, which is beyond their rules. I allowed the visit to continue for the best interest of Emmy. And on that visit, Casey had promised Emmy that she would bring her food, and she failed to do so. So when I picked her up at the end of the visit, Emerson was incredibly hungry, and I had to feed her immediately afterwards.
Okay. Was that during a mealtime?
It was.
When talking
So
about schedule,
you're going to quickly for Miss Williamson to keep up with you, and you're also losing me. So how many times of those 6 or 7 visits was she late?
2.
I'm sorry?
2.
And one of those times she was more than 15 minutes late.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
early in this case, were attempts made for an unpaid third party who could supervise visits?
Yes, ma'am. We had a neighbor, Ellie Batista, who was a supervisor. And then my neighbor, Jennifer Ferrante, was a supervisor. Ellie recused herself due to the behavior of Casey and refused to provide supervisions. Ellie can also attest to the fact that Casey would go and get high during visitations, and Casey admitted that to her. And then, sorry, my neighbor Jennifer was doing supervised visits. Casey was an hour and a half late to a visit. When attempts were made to get in touch with her, she did not respond. She showed up an hour and a half late and then extended the visit by 30 minutes.
So she ended up being an hour and a half late.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that point, your neighbor Jennifer no longer wanted to be involved in that.
Out of respect for my neighbor and at the request of CPS, I decided that until Casey could prove some consistency, that all visits would be at a monitored facility. That comes from the recommendation of CPS. And, you know, I certainly don't want any of my friends or family to be put in a position where they're, you know, in a position where they're being taken advantage of. Were put out because of these visits. And so I had communicated to Casey Miller that until further notice, I would have all visits be at a monitored facility.
Okay. So because of all of those things, are you asking that the current orders regarding possession and access remain the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to review exhibits 5 through 16?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those exhibits accurate bills or statements from various medical providers?
Yes.
I'll move to admit exhibits 5 through 16.
All right. Ms. Miller, Mr. Kadar, do you have any objection to petitioner's exhibits 5 through 16 being admitted?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, and Casey Miller is shaking her head. No, so petitioner's exhibits 5 through 16 are admitted.
Okay. Have you also looked at exhibit 4, which was your benefits coverage statement from December 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that statement accurately reflect the cost of benefits for health insurance, dental insurance for the entire family?
Yes, ma'am.
And then I would move to admit, now I forgot which exhibit it was. I would move to,
4.
Thank you. I would move to admit exhibit 4.
So let me just mention to you all that I'm having computer issues this morning. And although I had your file open on my second screen, that has gone black. So I can't see any of the exhibits. We can take a break in a little bit and I can reboot and try and see them. But let me just ask you about petitioner's exhibit 4. Are there any objections to that? No. So petitioner's exhibit 4 is admitted. And then let me ask you, so it's the statement of how much you are paying for health and dental insurance. My question is it the same amount that you pay for 4 children as you were already paying for 3?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So it hasn't actually gone up for you.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are you asking the court to order the parents to pay the percentage of the payments that would account for Emerson in that monthly payment?
Yes.
Okay. How much would that be?
For medical, the monthly amount is $279.57. They're with Emerson covered. There's 5 individuals. So that would equate to about $55.91 a person.
Okay.
And for dental, the total monthly cost is $211.52. And that has 6 individuals, and that equates to $35.25 a person.
Okay.
With a total of $91.16 per person.
And did you prepare exhibit number 17, which is a spreadsheet? Or I'm sorry, 16, which is a spreadsheet.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that spreadsheet helpful to the court to review all of the medical expenses and whether or not you were reimbursed and things of that nature?
If you're asking me, I think it would be helpful for the court to see that all in one place.
Okay. In the amounts that are reflected in that spreadsheet, are they reflected in exhibits 5 through 15?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, in that case, I would move to admit Exhibit 16 as well.
I believe I already admitted it because you asked for petitioners 5 through 16 to be admitted.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, so 16, just to clarify, 16 was something that you put together because you're a spreadsheet person. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. But it helps break down the costs. Why do you account such a high amount for Ms. Casey Miller to reimburse?
So for the medical reimbursement, out of $1,397.91 that has accrued, she has reimbursed me $20.72. Casey, previous employment was terminated in July of 2023. I reached out to her employer to verify the end of benefits date, and they were able to confirm with me that it would be July 31st, 2023. At that time, Casey was aware that she needed to put medical insurance in place, and she failed to do so. I believe the court orders say that she had 15 days to place it. When she failed to do so, I had asked Mr. Kadar to place insurance on his policy, which he was able to do.
Okay.
And so during the time that Casey did not provide medical coverage for Emerson, she did have a well check and a follow-up appointment, which accounts for a considerable amount of these expenses. Per the court orders, if Casey fails to provide coverage, Casey is responsible for 100% of those expenses.
Have you asked her to reimburse you for some of those expenses?
Yes, ma'am. Everything has been submitted for reimbursement through the Close app, which was recommended in the court orders.
Okay. And what has her response?
Let me just ask you because I missed it. So Casey had 15 days to get the child back on medical insurance, and she failed to do it. And then you asked Mr. Kadar to put her on his insurance. And did he or did he not do that?
He did, Your Honor.
And when did that start?
I believe that he was able to get her coverage effective August 15th or 11th. Andrew, I don't know if you remember, but it was, it could not go back to August 1st. I believe it was August 11th or August 15th was the effective date.
All right. And that continued until when?
I was able to confirm through his employer's insurance company that his coverage was terminated November 9th of 2023. It was not brought to my attention that he had lost his job or lost his coverage. I had realized that I wasn't getting the child support payments that he typically provides. And so I reached out to the Attorney General's office, and they informed me they did not have an active employer on record for him. And so I followed up with the insurance company to make sure she had coverage, and she did not.
And that's when you put her on yours.
Yes, ma'am. Because it was more than 30 days since the end of her termination of coverage, I could only get her to be added effective. I think it was December 8th or 9th was on my effective date. And I had enrolled Emerson in speech therapy. We had been attending weekly. And so I was unaware that she was not covered under insurance. And so for those periods of time, and the therapist had miscommunicated that the copay is not $9.50. She hadn't reached her deductible yet. So instead of $9.50 a session, they were actually $95. And so once I got that invoice this week, I have billed both Ms. Miller and Mr. Kadar for that time.
So is that included in the $1,397.91?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I would also note that the payments to Austin Regional Clinic, I've asked Casey to pay those directly to the provider because it's almost $1,000. And I would prefer not to pay that if I don't have to. The response I got from Ms. Miller was that She's not able to pay it. If I could pay it, she would reimburse me. I would also note that 2 of the expenses are more than 120 days past due with reimbursement to me, and the court orders that we have in place currently state that she has 120 days. I would also note that Casey has been receiving medical support from Mr. Kadar since August, even though she has not been providing any coverage since then. And so that was really the purpose of this hearing, was to have the medical support redirected to me, because Casey has not had any expense for her child for medical insurance since the month of July. And I believe that is $150 a month. And for 7 weeks, I had requested a reimbursement of $4.75, and she still would not reimburse me for that.
And Your Honor, you had asked a few questions and I didn't know if you were done, but I have no more questions of Ms. Miller.
All right. At this time, Ms. Casey Miller, if you have any questions for Ms. Janann Miller, you may ask them.
Okay, so I'm just curious, with the payments that you have sent me through at close, I have acknowledged them. I've also told you that right now my account is negative. I am in debt. I am working with National Debt Relief to get out of debt.
Objection, Your Honor.
How can I
this,
see it when my
it's
wages are garnished
So
already?
let me just be clear, Ms. Miller. This is not your opportunity to testify. It's your opportunity to ask Ms. Miller questions. So you should ask questions and not make statements.
Okay.
So you could ask her if she knows you're in debt, but you can't tell her about your debt.
Thank you. So Janann, do you know that I'm in debt?
Yes, I receive calls from debt collectors weekly for you.
But do you know, like, in my bank account, like,
No.
my checks are being garnished?
So I do know that you have an obligation to pay child support, and I do know that I'm getting those payments. I do know that since the month of June, we've only received 3 full child support payments from you.
Do you know that on the document that y'all submitted in Exhibit E or Exhibit 3, that it has the full list on your docket of everything that I've paid and I've paid up to date?
You've paid what up to date?
That I've paid what I've needed to pay you guys, that everything that has gone through from my new employer has gone to y'all?
No, you currently owe over $1,800 in child support. So no, I would not say that you are paid up to date.
Okay, thank you for verifying that. I also wanted to ask about the medical. Whenever I did lose my job, I did reach out to you about medical insurance, and I asked you on the Close app if I needed to put Emerson on Cobra or figure out something, and you told me no, Andrew had it taken care of. So I was
objection to there's no question.
So again, you will have an opportunity to testify if you don't use up all your time this way. So let's just ask questions and hold off on the testimony until it's your turn.
I guess my question would be, why did you tell me that insurance was taken care of by Andrew if it wasn't taken care of by him?
It was taken care of by him as of August 15th.
But that's not what's in my thing. Okay, that's it. No further questions.
And Mr. Kadar, do you have any questions for Ms. Janann Miller?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further for this witness, Ms. Ward?
No, Your Honor.
All right. You may call your next witness.
I will call Ms. Casey Miller.
All right. So Ms. Casey Miller, you are still under oath, and she's going to ask you some questions. And after that, then you will be permitted to add anything that you'd like. So just answer her questions and stop, but feel free to jot down a note about what you want to say when it's your turn.
Ms. Miller, where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed at HEB, which is, and I am working through a managerial program. Right now, my current payment is $27 an hour. And yeah,
It's how much an hour? I'm sorry.
27.
And do you work 40 hours a week?
Not yet. I am still in training for manager. So they have me in different positions. I have not yet gotten my 40 hours completely.
Okay. And you're a certified teacher, is that right?
I am certified. My license is suspended until July 10th of 2024. And then I am allowed to submit a drug test and apply for reinstatement.
Okay. And it was suspended due to intoxication at work, is that right?
It was not intoxication at work. It was unethical or breaking the code of ethics. Because I was not intoxicated. I did have alcohol at work, but yes, it was a violation of code of ethics.
Do you agree that you have trouble with addiction?
Oh, absolutely. I think I have trouble with alcohol. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And you don't think you have trouble with Xanax or any other substances?
No, I don't.
Do you deny taking Xanax or oxycodone from your mother?
Absolutely.
How much?
There were swabs done in my mouth after that, and it was negative. So
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
When was the last time you drank?
I don't know my exact date. I have to go back in my AA log, and I'd have to look at my journal. It has definitely been a while.
You don't know your sobriety date?
Well, I know my overall sobriety date, and then I know that I've had a few fallbacks. I had one in January, I had one in February. But overall since then, I haven't been drinking for over 8-9 months.
So can you tell us what your original sobriety date was?
September 7th. September 6th was the day of this incident, where Emerson was placed with Sam and Janin. September 7th was the very next day. That was the day
7th of 2022 or 2023?
2022, I believe. Yes. So that was my sobriety date, and that's when I started like my programs, my relapse intensive IOP and everything.
But you don't know your current sobriety date?
So the last time that I drank was in February. So with that being said, looking back through testimony on the CPS cases, my CPS caseworker documents it, I want to say around the 17th of February, but it was for a test that was taken about a week earlier. I will have to get the exact date. I apologize for not having that completely available, but yes, that would have been the last time.
So you're saying that the last time you drank, just coincidentally, they asked you to do a test also?
I'm not sure what your question is with that. Coincidentally,
Okay,
no.
I'll rephrase. You're saying the last time you drank is the last time you tested positive for alcohol. Is that right?
The last time I drank, I tested positive for alcohol. We dealt with that in March, and yeah, then I've been sober since.
Okay, but you've also not been tested since CPS has been out of your life. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Your Honor, may I share the screen?
You may. Ms. Fatima has just let me know that you have 10 minutes left of your time.
I knew I was running low. Thank you.
Yes, I see things about credit card.
Do you agree that this is the document that you provided me in response to our agreed discovery regarding your tax returns from 2022?
It looks like it, yes.
But let me scroll down and I'll try to, I keep going to the next document. I will scroll down so that you can see the gist of the document. I'll just get past the social security number. Do you agree that that is your tax return from 2022 that you provided me?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to admit exhibit number 2.
I thought we had admitted that, but I see now we've only admitted 4 through 16. So this is Petitioner's Exhibit 2. Is there any objection? All right, Petitioner's Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Do you also do some delivery service?
I did before I had a job at HEB. I had filed for unemployment and I did not get it. So I was trying to get some sort of finances. So yeah, I was doing some DoorDash.
So you're saying that you're not doing DoorDash anymore?
Right now, I have not done it in probably about 3 weeks.
Oh, so it's only been about 3 weeks?
Yeah. If even that, I would need to look for sure. But
How much money were you making a month on DoorDash?
it really wasn't monthly. It was dependent on how busy we were, what I was getting tipped. It was very different every single time.
On average?
$15 an hour, maybe. I'm not sure. I would have to calculate that.
I didn't mean an hour. About how much a month were you taking in on DoorDash?
Oh, not very much, like $300, $400.
Okay. And how much a month does your mother help you?
She helps me right now with my rent, which is
How much is
$920 for my half of the rent.
And how much is that? I'm sorry.
$925.
Okay. And does she provide you anything else?
If she does ever put anything else in my account, it's not me asking for it. I have stopped. If she gives me anything else, then it's just her gifting that to me. As
So
far
how much
as
is that?
So, for example, she paid for a couple of Emerson's supervised visits because I was still in the negative in my bank account and I hadn't seen my daughter in over 2 months. And the only way I was allowed to see her was through a paid facility. So my mom did pay for me to be able to see her, of which the next day she was denied feeding my child breakfast because she had paid for me to see my child. So
Has she paid for all of your supervised visits?
I think most of them have come from her card. And then, yes, I've paid her back. Been working on paying her back. Her and I have a separate account that is not in Sam and Jennings awareness. That is the account that I am using. That is a direct deposit for my employer to put the paycheck in. And then the only person who has access to it is me and my mom, and I pay her through there.
Okay. So about how much a month is she helping you?
$950 plus 100, maybe every 2 weeks, depending on if I get to see Emerson or not. So maybe $1,100 a month, give or take. And that is not every month.
Okay. Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Miller, if you have anything you want to add by way of testimony, you may do that now.
I'm sorry, I'm not completely sure if I know exactly what I would add in testimony there.
So the things that you told me in opening statement, that wasn't in evidence, that was an overview. So you need to tell me anything that you haven't already said in being examined by Ms. Ward. If you want to put some evidence in the record, this is your opportunity to do it.
Okay, so I guess talking about my finances, I became unemployed due to the event that happened on September 6, 2022, which was where I was caught drinking at work. I was put on administrative pay, and I was investigated by TEA. The results of that, I obtained another job and was paid fully and working fully as a teacher on salary, and that decision from TEA to suspend my license for a year was made on July 10th, 2023. Because I had already completed my relapse intensive IOP and everything, they said I can submit that for my credit whenever I am reapplying for my license back about a month before July 10th. During that time, I did apply for unemployment and it was not granted to me. So I was receiving no money Sorry, I will go back. I was receiving money from Andrew. And other than that, I wasn't receiving any money as a steady paycheck. I then finally got a job with HEB. October 26th was my hire date.
Of 23.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So you were unemployed from July 10th of 23 until October 26th of 23.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I did apply for unemployment. I applied for benefits and everything. There was 1 month I got SNAP for groceries, but that was it. Other than that, I did not get it, and I still am in appeals with them. However, my account is still negative 200. So in order to resolve that, to figure out how can I start getting out of debt, I had to have a bank account for my new employer to put money into. So my mother and I opened a bank account. And so that is where my money is going into right now. That money is being held in there. She is allowed to see what happens. She has say over it. And I don't have any sort of debts that come out of it or anything like that. But the $130 twice a month to National Debt Relief. That way, within 25 months, I can be completely debt free. Sorry. And that way I won't have to file for bankruptcy or anything else. So I am working on it. My wages, of course, are still being garnished for Emmy's child support. So my paychecks have not been super substantial. So I have not made a whole lot of money to be able to reimburse Janin yet for the speech and everything. Doesn't mean I'm not planning on doing that. I'm just trying to get to that point where I can support myself and be able to make those payments towards her. Am I allowed to address the things that were talked about as far as like the fact that I failed to attend any AA meetings or any of that?
You are entitled to address any topics that you think are relevant to my decision here today. And if there is an objection, then we'll make a determination on the objection, but go ahead.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. And so I did receive the link for the box link, but I did not really understand what to do with it. I do have my direct certificates from my relapse intensive IOP. I've got relapse intensive notes from my LCDC. I have completion of that. I have statements from my therapist, Tina Nunnally, who was stated in the affidavit by Janin that I was dropped for manipulation and lying,
So I can't review any of those unless and until you upload those to Box.
Right.
The information that you got should have included step-by-step instructions on how to upload things to Box.
Yes, ma'am. I did
We
get
can
that.
take a break now. We need a morning break anyway, for you to be able to upload those. And then once they're uploaded, you may offer them into evidence, but please do review the instructions. It's about 11:27 now. Let's break until 11:45.
Okay.
And y'all are welcome to mute your microphones and stop your video.
I'm so sorry, Your Honor. Can I ask you a question as well?
Yes?
So again, with the box, I'm going to try to upload the exhibits that I have been talking about. But again, I'm not sure if I will be able to get them in within 15 minutes, as I have over 480 exhibits in a file for this case. So I'm
So
just—
you really just need to upload anything that you want to make sure that I see before I make a decision on the temporary orders. If it doesn't relate to what you're asking for or what opposing counsel is asking for today, they don't need to be uploaded.
So, for example, would that be? I'm so sorry. I am trying to educate myself the best I can to represent myself. But for example, my visitation with my child, I'm supposed to minimally see her for one time a week, but there's no restriction on how long or anything. And I'm not seeing her because of financial situations and because of the availability of the schedule that Janin is allowing us.
Do you have a question?
Yes. So with that being said, can I submit into evidence or to an exhibit my request for in advance for visitation with her, and Janen's response with, over 2 weeks and only 5 hours that she gives me a possible visitation.
So we are off the record right now and in a recess, so I can't rule on anything. I can just tell you to upload whatever you want it is to bring to my attention for the hearing today. And then Miss Ward may have some objections to some of it. But please do try to redact, that means mark through. So we can't read anything that has Social Security numbers on it.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I'm going to try to do that. Sorry, apologize.
All right, thanks. How much time do they have left?
Petitioner has 4 minutes. Mom has 35 minutes and dad has 44 minutes.
No, they didn't each get 45 minutes. They got 45 per side. So the mother and father have 45 minutes total.
That's 34 minutes.
Okay. Because the hearing was only announced for 2 hours, so it wasn't announced long enough for everybody to get that much time. All right. So the petitioners have 4 minutes and the respondents have 34.
34.
All right, so I do now see the box folder, and it looks like you've uploaded 2 things, Ms. Casey Miller.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, I have not been able to convert everything to PDF yet, which I'm trying to figure out how to do. So that's all I've been able to do at this point in time.
All right. Is there anything else that you want to offer into evidence at this point?
There are things that they have in their evidence in their exhibit, which is Exhibit 3. And I have a lot of things about that. For example, Exhibit 3.
So let me just stop you and say, you're welcome to talk about any of their exhibits that have been admitted into evidence, and for anything that they've uploaded that hasn't yet been admitted. And I believe 3 has not been admitted, but if you want it admitted into evidence so you can talk about it, we can do that.
Your Honor, I believe 3 was admitted. I think it was the first exhibit that I admitted.
It should be the CPS summary.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I do see it was admitted. All right. So, Miss Casey Miller, you may proceed.
Okay. I apologize, and I apologize if I'm not doing this correctly. I'm trying my best, Your Honor. I did just want to point out in Exhibit 3, on page 50, we did discuss a family plan with required actions. And those required actions have steps for counseling and therapy, for drug and alcohol, for parenting class, for my OSAR evaluations, for my mental health evaluations. And on page 50 of those, it states that I have complied with all of those, of which earlier testimony said that I did not, and that I had not made progress.
Okay, just a minute. Let me find page 50.
May I ask if this is referring to page 50 of the PDF or the page marked page 50 of 144?
It should be not the page marked. It's marked of the PDF. I apologize for that.
It's the one marked page 50 of 144.
It says page 12 of 144. I apologize. And it goes through for a few, like for the you can see required action, and it says what I need to do, and that I had completed those actions. I have not been able to submit my certificates online yet, but I absolutely will before the final hearing.
So where is it on page 12 of 144? I see it says required action. It says what you have to do.
Right.
See target date / completed 3/19/23.
So like the first one says, for example, that I need to engage in individual counseling open and honestly. And so what I just have not been able to upload yet is my certifications, my progress towards that, my therapist saying that I was meeting with her, my any baby can nurturing parent program. I have that certificate. I just need to upload that as well. Down at towards the bottom of that page, it talks about Emerson attending individual counseling or play therapy. It does say due to the case recently opening, that she has not started that, and that we may not decide to do that. However, I feel like that is something that needs to be done between Emerson and I to reunite as mother and daughter. Unfortunately, the visits that I'm getting right now are 1 to 2 hours, maybe every other week. And so all she sees me as, and then this is put in their report as well, and I can document that, but all Emmy sees me as is grandma, grandpa, or aunt and uncle. I'm the fun one that she gets to go hang out with for an hour, and then she goes back home. I don't get to do those things with her, like everyday things, cook meals, talk about story time, do nap time, anything like that. I don't have the ability to do that because I'm not offered those hours, even though I have requested them. I also have in Exhibit 3, page 85, direct quotes from a previous supervisor, Miss Ellie Batista, quoting that.
Let me just stop you again and ask you, page 85, what is it labeled on the bottom right?
Sorry, let me make sure I have these before I'm telling you. Okay. Page 47 of 144.
Thank you. And let me just ask, you said that you are unable to spend more than 1 to 2 hours every other week.
Mm-hmm.
You understand the requirement to ask for specific times, at least a week in advance.
Yes, ma'am.
And why is it that you're unable to get time every week and 1 to 2 hours?
Out of the time, so I just sent, for example, on January 2nd, I sent my schedule for work for the next 2 full weeks, of which Janan replied back with a 1 day, Wednesday, 1 hour period of which I could see her, or the following week. So basically 5 hours out of 168 hours out of a week that she offered that I could even possibly see her. So I'm not getting any availability from Janan. It's very limited. What I did want to refer to on this page, though, is down at the bottom where it says 12/11/22, and it talks about a visit that I had with Emmy and Ellie. Ellie was a supervisor of mine. I have text messages from Ellie asking me to lie about supervision, and I feel like that is discrediting this witness. She has also asked me for prescription medication. She has asked me to go along with the story of why Emmy was late before, saying that it was because Adam and her son and her were arguing. And she sends me text messages saying, can you go along with this story? Just please, can you tell your brother and sister-in-law this? So I have lots of concerns about Ellie being a witness, considering I have that. I also have text messages from Ellie about how much anxiety Janan gives her and how she avoids everything from Janan and how she wishes she would have just taken responsibility and done the PCSP for Emmy in the first place.
So Ms. Miller, right now what I'm focused on is trying to figure out if there need to be any changes in the temporary orders. And you don't have those exhibits uploaded that are emails or texts between you and Ellie. And I don't think it's directly relevant to this question of changing your possession and access. So I understand you think that Ellie lied and asked you to lie, but it doesn't really get us any further along to figuring out what to do today.
Okay, absolutely. I understand that. And sorry, I was just trying to go. I've never been able to talk about anything they've presented. I've never had my chance to talk about, so I apologize if I'm overexerting that. For today, I requested to see my daughter on January 2nd. I have not seen her since the 23rd of December, of which I was allowed to see her for 2 hours at a movie theater. That was our Christmas that we spent together. And since then, I have asked for visitation for that, and I have been given I've been given 2 times out of 2 weeks from my availability, and those two times are because I'm so sorry. The 2 times that because I put in all my work schedule. Of course, this is a new job for me, and so up until the 14th of January, I listed every availability I had, and the only available times that Janan said that I could see her would be Wednesday, 6 to 7 on January 10th, or Friday, January 12th through Saturday, January 14th, with windows availability 9 to 12 or 3 to 6. So again, that's very hard to work in with my schedule as well when I'm doing a new job.
So are those available times for you?
With so I work till 6 on Wednesday, so I will be available at 6, which Janan states the availability is 6 to 7.
Where
so
do you work?
I work at HEB.
Which one?
Manchac and Slaughter.
And how far away is where Janan and Sam live?
About 4 or 5 miles. We're pretty, now that I've moved down south to a house, we're pretty close.
Okay. So if you get off work at 6, what time could you be there?
Well, the thing is, I have to schedule with Auburn as well, which is the third-party facilitator that I'm paying. And so I don't even know if those times work with her at this point in time. All I know is that out of every day that I listed that I could work, it was only those days that were available. And that's not the first time that's happened. As far as me asking for visits with my daughter, I have been, go ahead, I'm so sorry.
I just wanted to know if you were to have a choice, how many hours a week, if it were one time a week, how many hours a week would you like to have with her?
All day. I want to learn. I need to know my daughter again. You know, seeing her for an hour every other week is not helping me be her mother. It's almost like we are just having a friendship, and that's not what we need. I need to learn how to be her mother again.
And are you willing to pay the supervision costs for all day?
I mean, I am struggling with that right now. I do have my mother who says that she will voluntarily help with that because she does not want me to not see my child. But then my mother gets in trouble with Sam and Janan and is not allowed special things like serving my daughter breakfast if she pays for me.
So what time does your daughter nap? Do you know?
Somewhere between 12 and 3 is the general consensus that I've been told. She's almost 5 though, and in kindergarten they don't even nap anymore. So
what's her birthday?
May 1st, 2019.
All right, thank you. You may continue.
So I've also asked to start counseling, some sort of counseling, which was recommended through CPS, and was information was given to Janan on
Counseling for whom?
For Emerson and I, for Emerson for play therapy, or for Emerson and I to go to therapy. together to start dealing with some of the trauma or the events that she can remember or that have since been told to her. So with that being said, I have, let's see here. Janin was sent 11/1/22. She was sent a referral to Deborah Tabor for therapy. I since then have sent numerous text messages to Sam and Janin on top of at close asking for Emerson and I to potentially start therapy, of which I have been either ignored. The messages get read and nothing is responded, or they respond with, she's getting the therapy she needs right now and we're taking care of the rest to help subside her triggers. But for me, I need to know what those triggers are. I need to work with my child and get through this instead of just seeing her and playing with her once a week. That's not gonna change our relationship, I don't feel like. So she was given a referral for Deborah Tabor on 11/1/22. I have expressed that I have wanted to do counseling with her. I have been repetitively told no, that they are handling her triggers, but then I'm still reminded of triggers. For example, a month ago, I had a visit with her at a library and I told her I would bring her Encanto Mirabelle house to my mom's house so she could play with it. Only to be told by my mom the next day that Janet said, don't bring it because it is a trigger for Emerson. And it makes her think of when she couldn't wake up her mom. None of these things are communicated to me first person. Everything between Janet is communicated to a third party and then to me. So I feel like a lot of things get lost in the game of telephone. A lot of things get misconstrued as well, which is stated numerous times in the CPS Exhibit 3 report. I asked for numerous times. I asked for new supervisors to be granted with my CPS counsel or my CPS caseworker. I had asked on 11/10 for somebody at my work called Denisha Millsap to be a supervisor. I had asked a month later for Lisette Rangel. I have audio taped recorded meetings with my CPS caseworker of them confirming the fact that I would be able to have these people on my list. And then I was slapped with a temporary restraining order because I wanted to move my child to a place where I could just see her more. I was not asking for her back. I was just wanting to be able to have the ability to see her more than one time a week, if even that. And as soon as I filed for that, CPS came over, the director, Angela Diaz, came over with Andrea Jennings, and they confirmed that my daughter would be moved to her new placement March 31st. And that March 31st, I was served at my work with papers that there was an emergency court hearing for a temporary restraining order so that I could not move my daughter out of their care. The affidavit for that from Janin, the sworn-in affidavit for that states numerous things that are untrue, but again, goes back to that I've made no progress, that I have only done the parenting class. So again, I do apologize. I don't have those things uploaded, but there are things that I have completed. And in the CPS file in Exhibit 3, it does document that I have completed those. I just want to see my daughter. That's all I'm asking for. That is all I'm asking for. I understand my wages are being garnished. I get that. I think it's unnecessary for her to go to a pre-K that is $1,500 a month when she can go to their rated great pre-K for free in her neighborhood for they're making my mom pay $500 a month. My mom paid $500 2 days ago for Emerson to go to school when she shouldn't be paying because Emerson's 4.5 and pre-K is free. they are choosing, they want to put her there. So if they want to put her there, they should have to pay for that, not my mother. But they tell my mom that she is responsible or I'm responsible. And then my mom thinks that I'm going to get in trouble. So she ends up paying. So I would like more visits with Emmy. I would like more time with her. I would like for my mom to not be a crutch for them financially as far as asking for payments for her school, because it's not necessary. And I would like to, I'd like to be able to have time with my daughter, to not just go have fun, but to do things that are everyday things that we need to figure out how to do again, as mother and daughter, before we can reunite.
All right. Is there anything else you want me to know?
Only other thing, I believe Janan stated that I had failed like 15 out of 21 drug tests or something like that. Those failed drug tests I have documentation on, and those are referring to my prescription medication, which I am prescribed Adderall and I am prescribed alprazolam. I have been for over 20 years. I was taking Adderall even when I was pregnant. It was allowed. Dr. Breedlove allowed that. So the fact that they were telling me I was failing these tests due to Adderall and Xanax, but I was showing them every month my prescription, my bottle. Andrea, my caseworker, was counting pills. Yet it still was showing up because they said they hadn't verified it with my doctor, the prescriptions. So I don't feel like those should be fails for those prescriptions, because they were valid prescriptions. And I guess just bottom line is, CPS, FBSS, I did what I was supposed to. They've ruled this out. FBSS ruled this out July 3rd, 2023. I was not even informed. I had not heard from my caseworker. Andrea had been off of my case since I had requested the change in Emerson's placement. A new lady named Amanda Bunce had taken over. She reached out to me one time. She said she would be going out of the country and she would reach out to me when she got back. I did not hear from her until months later, and that is also documented in there. And then I was told that I was called and I was told my case was closed, even though I had never received a letter. So on July 3rd, my case was closed. However, because I had requested for my daughter to be moved to a different PCSP, March 31st, that temporary restraining order had gone into place, and Sam and Janan were awarded joint managing conservatorship of Emerson. I did sign that. I am not going to lie. I did not know what I was doing, but that is my fault. But it definitely was a situation that I feel like I got taken advantage of, because my case was closing out. I'm not sure why. I don't have possession of my child still.
Thank you. Mr. Kadar, do you have any questions for Ms. Casey Miller?
I do not, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Ward, do you have any further questions for her?
Your Honor, I know I only have 4 minutes left. I need 2 minutes with Mr. Kadar. If necessary, could I be given an extra 5 minutes? I don't need any more than that. I've got maybe 1 minute to 2 minutes with Ms. Miller.
All right, we'll add 5 minutes to each side on the clock, but that's going to be it.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I share screen?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's already been admitted as Petitioner's Exhibit 3. And this is what's marked at the bottom of page 75 of 144 on the PDF document. It's page 113. Does it surprise you that this states that you were discharged from Tina Nunley's therapy services because you missed 2 appointments in a row, and that you needed to notify the therapist about missed appointments.
Your question is, does it startle me?
Does it surprise you to see that it says that?
No, because she did discharge me, and then she accepted me back, and we continued all the way through until my CPS case was released or done.
Okay. Would it surprise you on page 109 of 144? Let me find it. That it states Ms. Miller continues to participate in therapy with Tina Nunley and aftercare with Joyce McCullen. However, Ms. Miller still minimizes and is dishonest when discussing her actions and intents, and that Dr. Nunley stated that Ms. Miller should have at least 6 consistent and verifiable months of sobriety and make major behavioral changes, such as using manipulation of others to get what she wants, learning and practice transparency, and take accountability for her misrepresentations, among other things. Does that statement surprise you?
Does it surprise me?
Yes.
I would like to know if that's a direct quote from Tina Nunley, because I have talked to her and I have audio recorded sessions with her.
Objection, non-responsive.
Yes, it does surprise me then, because yes.
All right, no further questions.
You have anything else you want to add, Ms. Miller?
No, just that I did continue to work with Ms. Nunley, and I worked with her all the way through my case being dismissed, and that she has said that she will write a testimony for me. So.
All right. So I don't know why, but all of a sudden we're getting a lot of static with your audio. So I don't know if anything has changed, but.
With mine?
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm on a desktop. I'm sorry. I'm not sure.
Miss Williamson, can you still hear her? Okay. All right. So, Miss Ward, then you may call your next witness.
I'll call Andrew Cater.
All right. And Mr. Cater, I'll remind you that you're still under oath.
I am showing you what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 1. This is the redacted version that I've uploaded. Do you agree that this is the income tax return that you provided me for 2022 taxes that you provided me in response to our discovery agreement?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 1, the redacted version.
Petitioner's Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Mr. Cater, what severance package did you get when you lost your job?
6 weeks.
Okay. And when I asked you if you had applied for unemployment or if you were receiving unemployment, you indicated that you have not applied. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. At this time, Mr. Is it Cater?
That's fine. Yep.
If you have anything you want to add or tell me before I make a decision, you're welcome to do it now.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll keep it brief. I'm asking that, again, for these temporary orders, that my support be reduced, considering my current state of unemployment. I've been gainfully employed by the same firm ever since I left college, and the figure that the attorney for the petitioners just included is an artificially high figure, considering I worked in the tech space, and software spend post COVID was artificially high. On a fixed income, I bring in less than $4,000 a month. Much of that was due to bonuses and other incentives. So I was only bringing in $4,000 a month prior to being unemployed. And given my current state, Carrie Ward did mention that I'm voluntarily unemployed. That's categorically false. I'm living off of severance for the time being. Once that runs out, I'm hoping to, I'm actively looking for work as is, reaching out to former colleagues, headhunters, former alumni, to find work and find a job that's suitable for myself. with an income that's suitable for myself, and one that will provide Emmy with what she needs.
So let me just ask, when were you laid off?
November 9th.
And when does your severance run out?
If assuming the current orders stay in place, March.
So, I thought you said you got 6 weeks of severance
That's correct.
starting November 9th.
Correct.
So how does that go through March?
I've been saving as much as I can and not spending as much as possible. And so based upon what I have left and the expenses I have, that will run out in March.
So you're not still being paid severance.
Correct. I was given 6 weeks, about a week or two after November 9th. 6 weeks pay.
As a lump sum.
Yes.
I see. And so you're saying that you're going to run out of savings by March?
That's correct. That's correct. I'm doing everything I can to find work. Again, I'm looking for the best spot I can find. Not many tech companies are hiring right now. I'm aware of that. And so it may take some time.
All right. What else do you want me to know?
I think that's about it. I will add from the health insurance component. When I added Emmy to my health insurance, she had the best medical, vision, dental, and it was only a surplus of between $75 and $100 per month. So I would like to add that, considering adding Emmy, and as gracious as I am, that the Millers have had added Emmy to their health insurance. It hasn't increased what they're spending whatsoever.
All right, thank you.
Thank
So, Ms. Ward, do you have any follow-up questions for Mr. Kadar?
No, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, it's Kadar or Kadar?
Kadar,
Kadar.
like radar, but with a K.
Thank you. Ms. Casey Miller, do you have any questions for him?
No, I do not have any questions for him.
Ms. Ward, do you have any additional witnesses that you'd like to call?
No, Your Honor, I rest.
All right, thank you. So, Ms. Casey Miller, do you have any additional witnesses you'd like to call?
No, ma'am.
So you've gotten everything into evidence that you want?
No, ma'am. That's I did put in I know they put in a motion for continuance. I also filed for a motion of continuance because I specifically needed more time to be able to take all of these things and put them into categorized strategic exhibits that are easily accessible. And I was just learning how to do that. So I just wish that I would be allowed a little bit more time to put these exhibits in.
Okay, so how much time do you need?
I can do it today and knock it out today.
All right, I'm going to keep the evidence open then until 5 o'clock today.
Okay, thank you so much.
You can upload any exhibits you want.
Okay.
Please do follow the instructions. So label them. Let's label them R-001 through however many, and upload them into respondents uploaded exhibits folder.
Okay. The two that I have there, I saw that I tried to change the name, but I couldn't figure out. So I just need to kind of research that on my own, I guess, separately is how to put them in.
So we
I know
can,
there's
we can
instructions.
change the name on those two, and we will call those R001 and R002. The first one is a letter dated 8/8/23 that your family-based safety services case was closed. Is there any objection to that, Ms. Ward?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then R001 is admitted. And then the other thing that you entered or that you uploaded is the signed agreed temporary orders filed May 31st of 2023.
Mhm.
That's going to be respondents 02. Do you have any objection to that, Ms. Ward?
I don't know that it's necessary, but it's not, I don't have an objection to it either. No.
All right, then that one is admitted as well as R2. And you have other exhibits you want to upload. Do change the name to be R3 through whatever, however many you have.
R
And
dash.
posted by 5 o'clock today.
Okay.
You were speaking the same time I was, so Ms. Williamson did not hear what you said, nor did I.
I'm sorry. I just was just, so my next one that I put in, I label R-003. Okay.
Correct. And then a 1 or 2 word explanation of what they are.
Okay.
All right. So Ms. Ward, how much time do you need to object?
If they're uploaded by 5 o'clock today, if I could have tomorrow to have the opportunity to object. And if Ms. Miller's being given the grace to be able to upload additional exhibits, I would ask that I be permitted to do the same until 5 o'clock today.
All right, I'll allow either of you to upload more exhibits until 5 o'clock today, and either of you, any of you to make objections. And the way that you can make objections is just email in response to the email you got about this hearing. You can just say, list the number and say, I object to this because it needs to be a legal objection. So because it includes hearsay or because it's not authenticated or whatever your objection is by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Let me ask a couple of questions. So Mr. Kadar, you're not seeking to have any visits with your daughter?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. And Ms. Casey Miller, if I were to say, well, let me just ask, is there a particular time that would be after preschool or on the weekend that if I were to say you get your daughter every week at that time that I could do?
Absolutely. I am flexible with that. My work is also, they know that I'm going through a custody situation right now. So I can just adjust my availability with them and I can block out a set scheduled time.
I'm thinking since that she naps between noon and 3, that I would say a block of 3 or 4 hours that are not between noon and 3. So either before noon or after 3 on a particular day. So is there a particular day or days that are better?
For me, right now my schedule is very, I'm still getting acquainted and everything. So I think their schedule is probably more limited than mine is,
Okay.
for availability.
All right, thank you. Then Ms. Janann Miller and Mr. Miller, if there were a 3 or 4 hour period, one time a week on the same day and time every week for supervised visitation, what would your preference be?
Your Honor, if I could go first and then I'll let my husband, Sam, chime in. I will let you know that my husband and I both work full-time. And so some of the availability that Casey had requested are submitted was during the work hours. We are unable to accommodate any requests during business hours during the week. We on occasion can accommodate.
Let me just say this, what time is she in school every day?
She goes from approximately 7:45 to about 5:30.
What time does she go to bed?
We start bedtime routine at 7:30. And she's asleep by 8.
So, I take it she's not in school on the weekends.
She isn't, Your Honor. And those are usually our available times. The times that I am provided with availability are often on the weekends. I will let you know that Sam and I's availability on the weekends vary, and it would be incredibly difficult for us to pin down a specific date that we could do a recurring visit. I will tell you that we have a son that plays college baseball. We have a daughter that is in competitive cheer, and they have games where they have competitions and they vary. And so we have been able to accommodate the requests that Ms. Miller has made to us for visits when they have been made. It just takes a little finagling to do that with our schedule.
Okay,
So
we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to have a specific day and a specific time every week. So my question to you is, what specific day and what specific time if I want it to be somewhere between 3 and 4 hours? This is
Sunday afternoon.
temporary orders and not permanent.
I understand. Honestly, I'd have to check with my husband and figure out. Saturdays are probably not good because those are usually preoccupied with plans for my family. And Sundays, probably mornings might be best from about 9 to 12. Maybe
right.
9 to 12:30. However, I would note that my husband and I do, we may take a weekend where we get away and we may not be able to accommodate. And I would like some flexibility if things come up as well, to readjust maybe the times or the days that she has a visit. Because I'm sure the court can appreciate that, we have a family and that, I have to try and prioritize as well.
Of course. All right. So let me just say a couple things. At this point, the evidence is not closed, so I haven't made any firm decisions. I will review all the evidence before I make a decision. So it probably won't happen until sometime next week, since I won't see your evidence until the end of the day today, and I won't see the objections till the end of the day tomorrow. So the current order will remain in place. But that said, let me just say, I am very cognizant of the fact that alcoholism is a disease. It's not a character flaw. And that being true, it is a disease that can be handled, but you have to make a commitment to sobriety. And I know that can work. I know that from family experience in my own family. And let me just be clear, Ms. Casey Miller, you need to know your sobriety date, and you need to make a commitment to sobriety before you're going to see your daughter more. And that is not because I want to punish you or anyone wants to punish you. That's because we need to keep your daughter safe.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what any judge is going to demand from you, for the sake of your daughter. So the other thing I want to say is that as Emerson's parents, and I'm talking now to Ms. Casey Miller and Mr. Andrew Kadar. Sorry, I'm having trouble with that. Your daughter needs you, and she needs you not just for money, although it does cost money to raise a kid, as y'all know. She needs you because she needs to know that she has parents who love her. And in an ideal world, she would know that she has all four of you who love her. And that includes Janan and Sam. So y'all need to put down your anger at one another and work at working together in Emerson's best interest. And to that end, it's clear to me that if Ms. Casey Miller and Emerson's dad don't currently have access to her records, both at school and any emotional or mental healthcare providers and other healthcare providers, they need to have access to that. So if she is in speech therapy, they should have access to those records. If she is in play therapy, they should have access to those records. So I want to make sure that happens. I do want there to be a specific time every week when Emerson's mother can spend time with her, and that does need to be in the 3 to 4 hour range, and it needs to be a regular time. If you all have a time that you want to take a vacation and it conflicts, then I expect y'all to work out a substitute time. But there's no time that Emerson should have to go for 3 weeks without seeing her mother.
Your Honor.
That needs to change, and we're going to work on that in the temporary orders.
Your Honor, real quick, if I may, being with a monitored facility, we would also have to coordinate whatever date with the supervisor as well.
Correct. But it needs
Could I ask that other supervisors be looked into? There were lots of supervisors I provided. One that is actually registered as a foster parent already in the state of Texas that is offered to do supervised visits, but Janan has denied that and said I need to pay for them. But I do have.
So let me just say, this is temporary orders. Y'all need to set a final order as soon as possible in the next 2 or 3 months at the latest. And so I'm not inclined to change who the supervisor is. I'm simply inclined to make sure that you get specific time every week to see your daughter, Ms. Miller.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. Great. Thank you.
I'm also not in a position to determine whether or not your mother chips in on preschool. I do have the same question that you do about why is she going to a $1,500 a month preschool instead of free pre-K.
Your Honor.
But that is really not a subject for today. It's a subject for another day. But at current, y'all are each paying $500 a month, or you're ordered to pay $500 a month. And understand, Mr. Kadar, that provides a hardship for you while you don't have any income. All right.
I am still experiencing a financial hardship too, and I am proactively getting out of debt. But it is hard to work with garnished wages and then having to pay additionally to see my child per hour, $50 minimum.
I understand that. I'd like you to upload your latest pay stub.
Okay.
Casey Miller is one of your exhibits. All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, those are the things that I wanted to say before I make a final decision. I do understand the situation, and I will make a decision as quickly as I can after I get the exhibits and any objections. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank y'all. Y'all are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.